a viral eulogy, a tearful teenage girl, and a double murder that's torn a Georgia town and the internet in two. Was it grief or guilt? A 17-year-old girl calls 911 in the early hours of a February morning. Her mother and stepfather are dead, shot in their bed. Weeks later, she stands in front of their caskets, tearfully delivering a eulogy streamed to thousands online. And just months after that, she's in handcuffs, charged with their murder. This is the story of Sarah Grace Patrick, a Georgia teen whose family life, digital trail, and public grief have drawn the attention of police, the press, and millions on social media. Was she a grieving daughter? Or was it all part of a premeditated cover-up? 17-year-old Sarah Grace Patrick lived in Carroll County, Georgia, with her mother, Kristin Brock, and her stepfather, James Brock. The couple, both in their early 40s, were active members of Catalyst Church in Carrollton and were known to friends and neighbors as caring parents raising multiple children, including Sarah and her 6-year-old half-sister. Despite Sarah having lived with her biological father, Daniel Patrick, for a period of time following her parents' divorce, he insists that her relationship with her mother and stepfather was a positive one. According to Daniel, Sarah loved them with all her heart. He claims that Sarah was just a typical teenager and that there were no problems in the home at all.
I wouldn't say there was any kind of problem in the house. I think that she was just a normal teenager growing up, and when she didn't get her way, she called me, and when she didn't get her way with me, she called them. It's just a typical teenager. There wasn't many problems in the house. I mean, other than sometimes, their punishments, was different than my punishments. But other than that, no, there was actually no problems in the home that I knew of.
He described her as a well-behaved and responsible young woman with whom he shared an open relationship. This narrative, however, is complicated by other accounts. Some family members and friends described a fraught relationship, with Sarah feeling trapped at home. Others, including members of their church, described the home as stable and loving, further complicating the picture and creating a deep divide between those who defend Sarah and those who believe she is guilty. In the early morning hours of February 20, 2025, a chilling 911 call was made from the Brock household. It was Sarah Grace Patrick, her voice trembling, reporting the unthinkable. 2 people shot inside her home. Patrol cars converged on the quiet suburban street. What officers discovered inside the Brock residence was a scene of both familiar horror and unsettling mystery. Kristin and James Brock lay dead in their bed, both victims of gunshot wounds. Investigators immediately noted no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no kicked-in doors, and nothing appeared to have been stolen. Yet one of the house doors stood slightly ajar, an anomaly in an otherwise undisturbed home. Crucially, no murder weapon was found at the scene, raising immediate questions about its whereabouts and who might have removed it. The undisturbed nature of the home, coupled with the open door and missing weapon, immediately piqued their suspicion. The killer was likely not a stranger, but someone known to the victims, perhaps even residing in the house. As officers processed the scene, a subtle, rhythmic beeping sound drew their attention. It was James Brock's LVAD, an implanted heart assist device, now signaling that his heart had stopped. Sarah later told police she had heard a similar beeping during the night but had dismissed it, assuming it was nothing important. But perhaps the most unsettling detail emerged. It wasn't Sarah who found her parents' bodies. It was her 6-year-old half-sister. This small, innocent detail cast a long, perplexing shadow over Sarah's account, raising immediate and profound questions for the investigators who now stood in the grim aftermath. And that shadow? It would only grow deeper, especially when Sarah took the spotlight at her parents' funeral. Just over 2 weeks after the horrifying murders, the community gathered at Catalyst Church for the funeral of Kristin and James Brock. The solemn service, however, became an unexpected focal point of the unfolding mystery. Their 17-year-old daughter, Sarah Grace Patrick, stepped up to the podium to deliver a eulogy that would not only be heard by those in the church, but was streamed live online and quickly shared across social media platforms, drawing millions of viewers into her raw public grief. Dressed in a pale blue dress, Sarah appeared visibly strained and tearful. Her voice wavered as she thanked her mother for small, everyday moments, like brushing her hair every morning, and affectionately called her imperfect, but mine.
I just wanted to say goodbye to my mom and Jamie since we never got the chance to. I was so used to you guys always being here to the point that I never once thought to imagine y'all not being here. I didn't have a single clue how much I needed y'all until now. For James, thank you for all the life lessons you taught me and for being the best bonus dad ever. Your heart will finally be healed in heaven and neither of y'all will be in any pain anymore. Although that gives me so much comfort, your fight was not supposed to end there. And for my mother, everything we went through does not define what kind of person or what kind of mother you were. You were a beautiful, kind soul with so much gratitude and so gosh dang strong. And you taught me so many life lessons, and some that you just recently taught me through a letter you sent to James in 2018.
However, to many family members, and more significantly, to the law enforcement officials closely watching, something about the speech simply didn't sit right. They observed a perplexing emotional control beneath the surface of her tears, noting how rehearsed her tone seemed, almost like a performance. Sarah quietly ended her speech by saying, "I'm sorry." For some, this brief, enigmatic utterance was immediately interpreted as a veiled confession, a slip of the tongue under immense pressure. Her cousin, Kristin Brock, a vocal critic of Sarah since the funeral, later spoke out publicly, claiming Sarah had fake cried through the entire eulogy, suggesting her grief was an act.
I was front row at this funeral where I watched her do this with my own two eyes and not a single tear was shed. And this isn't something that I thought about afterwards. This isn't something that I've gone back to the video and looked for. I was thinking it at the time. I was thinking, what is this voice that she is doing that sounds like crying, but a tear is never shed? And you can see on the video, she doesn't wipe a tear. She does not have a tissue. She does not shed a tear. Her eyes are not red. It's not speculation that she was not crying. She absolutely was not crying.
Yet others within the church and wider community vehemently disagreed. They contended that Sarah's grief was undeniably genuine, arguing that any perceived awkwardness or emotional restraint was simply a natural manifestation of extreme trauma, shock, and the immense stress of losing both parents so suddenly and violently. They pointed to the unbearable weight of grieving in such a public, scrutinized spotlight. Still, for investigators who had already begun to eye Sarah as a person of interest following the puzzling crime scene, the viral eulogy added a significant, unsettling layer to their growing suspicions. It transformed her from a potential victim into a central, controversial figure in the case, amplifying questions about her true role in the tragedy. In the weeks following the highly scrutinized funeral, Sarah Grace Patrick returned to her digital world, specifically to TikTok. What started as seemingly innocuous posts quickly evolved into a chilling digital breadcrumb trail. She shared a series of cryptic videos, often featuring her own tear-streaked face, set to sad music and accompanied by vague captions about profound loss and loneliness. But it was what lay beneath this veneer of public grief that truly alarmed investigators. As they delved into Sarah's extensive online activity, they uncovered what authorities would later describe as a mountain of digital evidence. While the full contents have not yet been publicly detailed, several bombshell developments were confirmed through persistent media reporting. What Sarah did next didn't just raise eyebrows, it raised alarms. And it all started on TikTok, because buried beneath sad music and viral captions was a plea for fame, or maybe for justice. Sarah had allegedly contacted multiple true crime bloggers, urging them to look into her parents' deaths. In one case, she told an influencer that their coverage would blow up and that the story would be a really big hit. Screenshots later shared by content creator reportedly revealed messages from someone claiming to be Sarah as early as May, months before her arrest. Another prominent content creator known as Mama Tot also reported receiving a message from Sarah Grace, pleading, "Mama Tot, I need a mama bad right now, I'm going through it." These messages, framing herself as a desperate victim seeking justice, were paired with even more damning evidence. Deleted Google searches reportedly found on her phone and computer. Though the exact search terms remain under wraps, investigators have strongly hinted they included violent keywords, weapon-related terms, and inquiries about how to destroy or hide evidence. For law enforcement, these digital footprints painted a starkly different picture than the grieving daughter seen at the funeral. They suggested a calculated and manipulative individual, using the very platforms meant for connection and empathy to potentially orchestrate a narrative, divert suspicion, or even revel in the morbid attention surrounding her parents' deaths. The internet, designed for sharing, had become a digital accomplice, or perhaps a confessional. By summer, Sarah was no longer just the grieving daughter at a funeral podium. She was the key suspect in a double homicide. After months of intense scrutiny, meticulous evidence collection, and a digital trail that seemingly led back to Sarah Grace Patrick, the net finally closed in. On July 8, 2025, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, working in close collaboration with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the FBI, an indicator of the case's complexity and scope, announced a significant breakthrough. A warrant had been issued for Sarah's arrest.
Today, we can confirm that an arrest has been made in the case. Kristin Brock's 17-year-old daughter, Sarah Grace Patrick, has been taken into custody and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of aggravated assault in connection with the deaths of her mother and her stepfather.
With the legal pressure mounting, Sarah, accompanied by her biological father, voluntarily turned herself in at the Carroll County Jail, marking a dramatic turning point in the investigation. She was formally charged with 2 counts of malice murder, 2 counts of felony murder, and 2 counts of aggravated assault. Despite her age, at 17, Sarah Grace Patrick is being tried as an adult, a decision that carries grave implications for her future. She is currently being held without bond at a regional youth detention facility, signifying the court's view of her as a flight risk or a danger to the community. In a public statement, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office addressed the press and the anxious community. They conveyed a clear message. Authorities were confident they had amassed enough evidence to move forward with prosecution. Authorities also confirmed that they have not ruled out the possibility of accomplices or third parties, suggesting that the full story of this shocking double murder may still be unfolding, and additional arrests were possible.
The pursuit of justice does not end today, however. It is very possible, because this remains an open and ongoing investigation, that more arrests and charges could be made.
This statement left open the chilling possibility that Sarah may not have acted alone, suggesting investigators were still exploring potential accomplices or others close to the family who might have played a role in the brutal killings, or even helped in a cover-up. The community, already reeling from the initial crime, now grappled with the notion of a wider conspiracy. To date, police have not publicly announced a definitive motive, but the vacuum of information has been filled by competing narratives and tragic divisions within the family itself. While investigators have meticulously built a case against Sarah, their theory of why is fiercely challenged by her biological father, Daniel Patrick, who is now her most vocal defender. In an exclusive interview, Daniel Patrick adamantly maintained his daughter's innocence. He directly challenged the narrative presented by the sheriff's office, especially the claim that they had a mountain of evidence. According to Daniel, the evidence shown to them appeared thin and inconsistent.
They say they have a mountain of evidence. That folder was pretty thin. That's all I will say. So they showed us a little bit of stuff, but without attorneys around, I don't really want to speak of that evidence.
He recounted her lengthy 4-hour interrogation, noting that even through this intense questioning, he saw no red flags that would point to her involvement in the killings. Daniel Patrick also provided a potential alternative motive that he believes law enforcement failed to pursue. He revealed that Sarah had suspected her parents were involved in drug-related conflicts, suggesting the double murder could have been a drug deal gone wrong.
I don't like to talk bad about them and their deaths and stuff like that, because I know that families are hurting and stuff like that, but Sarah knows more than most people knows. And the only thing that she could think of was There was drug deals go wrong. You know, they ripped somebody off a couple months before that, and Sarah thought that it could be that person.
He pointed to evidence of forced entry on a door, which he said directly contradicts the police claim that there was no break-in and that the perpetrator was known to the family. In his view, these details highlight a serious lack of integrity in the police investigation. Echoing this staunch defense, Sarah's grandfather, Dennis Nolan, also expressed his strong conviction of her innocence. Shocked by her arrest, he has continued to communicate with Sarah in jail, where she maintains her innocence and pleads for help.
Again, I don't think there's no evidence that I'm aware of that says she did it. And for the police to just say that she's the only one who could possibly do it, that to me is circumstantial and doesn't warrant her arrest.
In the heartfelt interview, he said the loss of his daughter was hard, but the thought of losing his granddaughter is 10 times harder. He has consistently described Sarah as a well-behaved, responsible teenager with no known mental health issues. The central question remains a subject of intense speculation. Was Sarah a victim of her circumstances, a calculating manipulator, using these very claims to create a narrative that would justify a tragic act? Or, as her father and grandfather suggest, is there a completely different story, one involving external threats and a flawed police investigation? Who do you believe? The investigators with a supposed mountain of evidence? Or the family saying they've seen barely a molehill? The Sarah Grace Patrick case has gone viral on social media. Reddit forums, TikTok users, and YouTube creators have all weighed in, analyzing her body language, dissecting her eulogy, and speculating on her mental state. Some users believe she is clearly guilty, pointing to her allegedly manipulative online behavior and cryptic messages as evidence. Others believe she's being unfairly portrayed and argue that the pressure of grief and public attention can make anyone act strangely. Even members of Sarah's extended family are divided. Her cousin Kristin said that her uncle, Sarah's stepfather, had warned them months earlier that Sarah was not who she pretends to be. Sarah Grace Patrick remains in custody, and her trial date has not yet been set. If convicted, she could face life in prison without the possibility of parole. No murder weapon has been recovered. The motive remains unclear, and her surviving 6-year-old sister, now in the care of relatives, is considered by law enforcement to be the most innocent and tragic victim in this story. Whether Sarah is guilty or innocent, her story taps into something deeper. How we grieve in the digital age, how teens navigate trauma in public, and how social media can both reveal and distort the truth. Was she a grieving daughter caught in a storm of suspicion, or a cold and calculating killer who used the internet to cover her tracks? As her trial unfolds, only the evidence and time will tell. What do you think happened? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more true crime stories.